relates a story to them. It's a very, very interesting story. That Isa alayhi salam, and he met a man. And he said to this man, I would like you to go and buy us some food. So the man went and he bought 3 loaves of bread. On his way back, he ate one. And he brought Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam 2. Sayyidina Isa said, you bought 3. What is the 3rd? He said, it was only 2. Sayyidina Isa said, okay. So he brought him to this river here, Nahar al-Asir, the river that cuts Palestine and Jordan. It makes it into the West Bank and the rest of Palestine. And Jordan and the West Bank. And he took his hand and walked over the water. Took the man's hand and walked over the water. When they got to the other side, he looked at him and he said, I ask you by the one who just showed you this miracle, who ate the 3rd? He said, I told you, it was only 2. He said, okay. Then they passed by a deserted house, and he showed him some skeleton inside. And Isa alayhi salam called the skeleton, and it came back to life. He said to him, well, I ask you by the one who just showed you this, who ate the 3rd loaf? The man said, I told you, it was only 2. So they walked into a deserted palace, and there was 3 jars of gold. Isa alayhi salam said to him, 1 for me, 1 for you, the 3rd is for the one who ate the 3rd loaf. He said, I ate it. Right there. I ate it. Isa alayhi salam said, okay, you take the 3, I don't want them. So the man sat, holding into what? The jars of gold. He can't carry all of this. And he met 2 people. They passed by. They said to him, what's this? He said, well, this is gold for the 3 of us. If you can help me carry it back to my place. So they said, okay, a jar for each one of us. So he said, okay, I agree. They're offering him a service. He said, I agree. But you know what? Before we carry it, let's have some food. So the man went to the city to get some food, and on his way back he thought, why don't I put poison for these guys? Why should they share my gold with me? I'll put poison for them in the food. And while he's putting the poison, they were thinking, if we kill this guy, then we have 3 jars between 2, better than between 3. So as soon as he came back, what did they do? What did they do to him? They killed him. And they sat to eat. Isa alayhi salam now is united with his students, with his disciples, and they passed by. They found 3 jars of gold and 3 dead bodies. He said, this is what dunya do to its own. That's how Isa alayhi salam used to walk around. Teach by example. So some awliya are like that. They own nothing. You might find these people in the streets. They own nothing. You just walk to remind people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like today, when we were going to Aqsa and coming back, you see the Christians were carrying their cross, and there was one guy coming back and said, هو حي لا يموت هو حي لا يموت هو حي لا يموت. He is alive, he doesn't die. He's talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But remember, he's saying to them what? Because they said that their God has died on the cross. He said, هو حي لا يموت. He is alive, he doesn't die. So some salihin are like that, some awliya are like that. They call that al-maqam al-Isawi. It's the Isawi station. That this person is on the state of Isa. There is another person on the state of Sulaiman. You might actually find a righteous wali who is in big position, a king or a ruler. Remember, the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is magnificent. It is not restricted to people. You don't have to be only faqir, only poor, to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You might be very rich and you are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very influential, very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are people like Musa alayhi salam, to teach the strict they save. And there are people who are like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a teacher. That's the main description of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قال إنما بعثت معلما. And the muallim, the teacher, encompasses all of these qualities. All of these qualities are encompassed in the teacher. Why? He has to be disciplining. He has to be distant from dunya and disinterested in it. He has to be governing. He has to be healer. He has to be merciful. He has to carry those who are slow in the learning, and curb and slow down those who are fast learners, so that he makes sure that the gap is bridged between both. Otherwise, this one will feel left out and this one will feel arrogant. So he holds someone back and he pushes someone up. The Prophet ﷺ would sometimes push someone who has no status whatsoever, push him to the forefront and praise him for little things. A man used to come to Al-Madinah Al-Munawwarah, his name was Zahir. He used to come from the desert giving gifts to the Prophet ﷺ. They said, "Can I ya'ti al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam?" He used to bring very simple gifts, like people from the desert. What would they bring? What he would be bringing? Possibly some dates. Well, but the dates of Medina were much better. But possibly he has woven something for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, made some art craft, and he brought it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to give him a lot of gifts in return. And he used to say, "Zahiru hadiratuna badiyatuna wa nahnu hadiru." He is our badia, he is our desert, meaning like he is the one who introduces us to the desert, and we are the ones who introduce him to the city. So one day they said, one day the Prophet ﷺ saw, because this man used to bring like little things and sell them also in Medina. He gives to the Prophet ﷺ, but he sells like someone coming from a countryside, selling something in the market and going back. So he saw him standing in the market one day and very busy. So he hugged him from behind like this. And he said, "Who wants to buy this slave?" Man yashtari al-abd. Who wants to buy this slave? Remember, this is like a message to him. Like, who wants to buy this slave of dunya? Like he's busy with his buying and selling. Who wants to buy this slave? So when Zahir knew that this is the Prophet ﷺ, he started like rubbing his shoulders in the chest of the Prophet ﷺ to get the barakah of the Prophet ﷺ. And he said, "Ya Rasulullah, tajiduni kasidan. I'm not a good commodity. Who would buy me? I have no one." Now the Prophet ﷺ realized that he got the lesson. قال لكنك عند الله لست بكاسد. But with Allah, you're not a bad commodity. You're a good commodity. In other words, people don't want to buy you, Allah will buy you. Why? He's pushing him. When was he pushing him? When he realized that his heart got broken. But he's slowing him down. When he thinks that he's... Sometimes a student would come and keep talking about certain... We want to do this activity, and we want to do this activity, and we want to do this activity. And I say, I switch off the talk right away. Even though it's important to talk about organizing activities. I say, let's talk about spirituality. Let's talk about your awrad. How's your hal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How's your salah? How's your ibadah? How's your dhikr? Why? Because sometimes we get confused and consumed in organizational matters that we become very dry. And another student is so much into the spiritual side. And you say, "Oh, let's talk about organizational matter now." It is what? It's this balance. You have to have like salt and pepper in your food, otherwise it will be so bland. You have to have that. But the Prophet ﷺ was all of this. He had to understand personalities. A teacher has to understand the personalities of the children or the students whom he's teaching. This person, yesterday, I said something to Sidi Uthman, and I realized that right away that he was like taken aback by that. So I embraced him right away. Sah, Sidi? Embraced him right away. Why? Because I don't want him to get the wrong message. They say in Egypt, يضرب ويلاقي. You hit and welcome. You know, they say in Egypt that sometimes you hit your son, and then when he starts crying, or you tell him off, And then you feel that they're done, you hug them. That's what a mother does, isn't it? She tells you off, and when she feels that you're now broken-hearted, who will hug you and calm you down? Same place. Your mother. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He reprimands you and He forgives you. He warns you and He gives you glad tidings. He pushes you away and then He brings you close. Our Prophet ﷺ was like that. A teacher is like that. You come broken, he says, MashaAllah. Well, he wouldn't have accepted this poor performance from me. Well, now it is accepted because you're broken. In another situation, it is not accepted. Why? Ibn Ata'illah Secondary says, a disobedience that leads your heart to be broken and you feel humble is better than obedience that leads you to be arrogant. Remember that ibadah is a vehicle that leads you somewhere. It doesn't mean that you neglect your salah. No. We're not talking about fara'id. We're talking about nawafil. Like you decide to fast on a Monday. But by the end of the day, once you have broken your iftar, wow, subhanallah, you're so happy. No, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. I think Imam Subki rahmatullah alayh, the father, and he had Subki al-Saghir, his son was also a great scholar. If I remember the story well, they were fasting and they were walking in the market, and then the son pointed at two individuals and said to his father, Ya Abi, look at these people. Subhanallah. They are eating in the market, disrespecting everyone's feeling, or something like that. And he said to him, Ya Waladi, I wish we wouldn't have fasted today and you wouldn't have backbiting people. We would rather go and eat. So, if you'd like to be that alerted individual, then you take a share of the Prophet ﷺ. The awliya and the salihin and everyone in this ummah has a share of the Prophet ﷺ. But some has a Musa manifestation. So this tough. The awliya are like that. Different teachers are like that. You might find a teacher who has a bit of temper. He's hard. Another teacher, he gets very irritated if you don't abide by, be punctual in time. Another teacher is so relaxed. Another teacher is joking. Another teacher is like this. Another teacher is he's got so much aura that you can't even open your mouth. Another teacher is very easygoing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala distributes His grace to you through these individuals. هذا العمل جعله الله. So, our responsibility in da'wah, and I will conclude here, our responsibility in da'wah is essentially at this day and age to work on our small circles first. Sometimes we think about the larger society. We want to go for the larger society. We want to do this. We want to do this. But this deen is about what? Surviving at difficult times. You can't revive the past. No one can revive the past. If anyone tells us that, you know what, let's restore the days of Salahuddin, they are lying. The ummah is not in a position of reproducing Salahuddin. Let's be very, very honest. Why? Because how can they reproduce Salahuddin if they worship television? Or they have Facebook. Or they have Twitter. It's not. The state is different. The time is different. The needs are different. Impossible. Like, look around you here in Al-Quds. The deen teaches us how can we understand our reality in the first place. These stupid people who left their homes and decided they want to join the Islamic State. They were deluded, to say the least. They were deluded. Why? They live in a fantasy. They live in a fantasy. There is nothing called the Islamic State. The Prophet ﷺ did not establish an Islamic State. He established a multicultural society where Jews and hypocrites and polytheists and Muslims lived side by side. And by the way, every group used to judge according to their law. The Jews were commanded in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, وَلْيَحْكُمْ أَهْلُ الْإِنْجِيلِ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ. Did the people of the gospel judge according to what Allah has revealed in the gospel? Knowing that the gospel at the time of the Prophet ﷺ was changed, by the way. They were Trinitarians. But yet, the Quran acknowledges people's tradition. Why? Changing the tradition of people causes so much disruption to the social flow. We live in a very difficult world because of one thing: there is no tradition today. There is no tradition. We live in what we call this fluid state of modernity. There is no tradition. There is nothing static. There is nothing that you can point back to. So our responsibility as Muslims is to look at our small families and preserve them. The Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, there will come a time when the best activity you can engage in would be to take a couple of sheep and go to the tips of mountains and live from their milk and stay away from people. Hadith Sahih. In other words, there will be a time when you just focus on your own self. He said, there will be a time where killing will increase and there will be so much confusion. So what shall we do, Ya Rasulullah? He said, focus on your own private matters and leave public matters. Everyone is a political analyst, mashallah. Everyone is giving his input on how the country should be run. Bearing in mind that there is a government that actually is supposed to run the country. Our responsibility is to fix ourselves. What is a society made of? Me, you, your family, my family, his family, her family, isn't it? If everyone is giving his input on public matters and we're leaving all of these building blocks of the society, then nothing will happen. I was saying to your friend today that we met, I said to him, I believe, just like as I see you, I believe in this wholeheartedly, that Aqsa will not be restored until the whole ummah goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and focus on their own selves. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, In tansurullaha yansurkum. If you support Allah, Allah will support you. How do you support Allah? Work on yourself. Work on your heart. Work on your relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can an ummah that doesn't wake up for qiyam or their relation with their hal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not alive. Their connection, there is no connection. And they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them. We recite in Salah, Iyaka na'budu. And then, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. Like you worship first and then you seek assistance. It is not إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ ثُمَّ نَعْبُدُ. It doesn't work the other way around. You need to do your duty first. The world works like that. You can't claim your salary unless you do your job. You can't claim your wages unless you have offered the service. The world works like that. There is cause and effect. It's not effect and cause. It's not the other way around. So this is our responsibility today, that we work on our families. If this is your only responsibility. If you're married, then yourself. If you have a family, then your family. If you have bigger responsibility, like if you have students like me, then your students as well. You run like a small group of people. If you have bigger interaction with people, there are some people that I would meet once in a lifetime. Like I go to a country and there is like 1,000 people listening to a talk. I make sure that what I'm going to leave them with will help them for the rest of their life. So give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there are people that you have continuous training relationship with. There were Sahaba, I told you before, there were Sahaba who saw the Prophet ﷺ once. And that's it. That's it. They just like passed by. Assalamu alaikum. Rasulullah had like 5 minutes and Assalamu alaikum. Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali radiyallahu ta'ala from Bajila, tribe called Bajila. He spent 40 days with the Prophet. That's it. 40 days in the last, in the like the last 40 days of the life of the Prophet. And in these 40 days, what did he do? What did he learn from the Prophet? He talked to us about two qualities of the Prophet. Only two qualities. This is how the Prophet interacted with him. قال ما حجبني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم منذ أسلمت ولا رآني إلا تبسم. The Prophet never stopped me from seeing him since I accepted Islam. Well, he's new, so he needs to have access. He has questions. And then ولا رآني إلا تبسم. And every time he would see me, he would smile. Every time he would see me, he would smile. But what conversations did he have with the Prophet? Nothing. Pretty much nothing. He just said to him, Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. And the Prophet said, Wa alaikum assalam. How are you? 40 days. You need 40 days to open someone's heart and to know who they are and to talk to them. That's different from Umar ibn Khattab. That's different from Abu Bakr Siddiq. It's different from the other Sahaba who were spending more time with the Prophet 13 years, 15 years, 23 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says لا يستوي منكم من أنفق من قبل الفتح وقاتل أولئك أعظم درجة من الذين أنفقوا من بعد وقاتلوا وكلا وعد الله الحسنى. Like those who were with the Prophet in Mecca is never like those who accepted Islam just a few days before the Prophet passed away. Yes, all are Sahaba, by the way, in the essential connection being direct students of Prophet, all are equal. But as I told you also, there are Sahaba who have not narrated. Actually, most of the Sahaba did not narrate even a single hadith. Out of 114,000 Sahaba, we had at the death of the Prophet ﷺ, there was 11430. 114,000 Sahaba. How many narrated hadith, Amir? Just below 2,000. 1,800 Sahaba. So what were the other 112,000 doing? Just seeing the Prophet. Well, but they're Sahaba, yes. Well, but they didn't teach us anything. Yeah, they were not supposed to teach you anything. Only 1,800 narrated. And of the 1,800, how many give fatawa? 120. And of these 120, only 20. Only 20 were known to give more than 5 or 6 fatwas. Which means that the rest of the 100, they gave like 15 fatawa, 10 fatawa, 5 fatawa. And amongst the 20, there is only 7 that are known to be the top. These are the fuqaha of the Sahaba. And because this was the tradition at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, later on the tradition was that there are fuqaha of the Ummah, Al-Shafi'i, Malik, Ahmed ibn Hanbal, and Abu Hanifa. That's the tradition, that in every state, in every age, there has to be individuals who teach and individuals who take. But nowadays, who are the fuqaha of the time? Everyone is a faqih for himself, isn't it? Everyone is a faqih. They come to the shuyukh. I know the answer, but I want to confirm with you. You know, I want the answer, but I want a second opinion. MashaAllah. So if you want the answer, if you know the answer, I can go and clean the toilets there. Like 20 years of my life I've been spending in learning, and you know the answer. Khalas, mabruk. Congratulations, you know the answer. We need to come to this, to that, back to this tradition. So at this day and age, if you have a responsibility, fulfill your responsibility. Then in that responsibility, you will be carrying the concern of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.